Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're located in this world, time zone. Welcome to Awake and Activate. Today, we are going to go through the awakening and the journey of Brian Staveley he's got several channels. And what I like about him is he walks the walk that he talks. So let's bring him up and I'm going to let him introduce himself to you, and we'll start from the beginning and we'll go through it.
Hi. What would you like me to introduce myself as? I'm Brian. Nice to meet you.
And you got, I think, 3 different channels now.
Yeah. Oh, all right. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, I have 3 now because they keep censoring me. So.
Well, I was wondering about what happened to your super chats and what happened with all of that. Why is that gone?
Oh, they just decided one day to demonetize my channel. They just tell you your content's not really fit for monetization. So that happens to a lot of people. So I don't really bitch about it, But yeah, they did that a few months ago. So you can't super chat. You can't earn any revenue off the videos or anything. They just completely disabled that. It's ridiculous. If you think about it, it is ridiculous.
Well, I've had some videos that were removed that actually had good information for people to know about their health and wellness, and they took them down. I mean, they just removed them, and I was like, what? I mean, this was good information. It wasn't controversial or so. Yeah, seeing the censorship coming about.
Well, yeah. Well, they take a lot of videos down. Like they took a week ago, 8 of my videos down in 2.5 days. But they weren't giving strikes for all of them. When you get a strike, big a deal. But they gave me hate speech last night on my Real News Online channel. Yeah, for the video I did the other day on Dr. Batar that me and Karen did on.
Yeah, I saw it. I was there.
Okay, so after we were done last night with our show, I premiered it on my backup channel, and I woke up and I had the email from them, so they gave me hate speech, gave me a strike, and the channel's down again.
Oh my gosh!
They don't tell you what the problem is or nothing. And anything I put out isn't hate speech. I'm always trying to show people that there's no need to fear, and you know what I mean. The hate speech is coming from the media. That's where the real hate speech is coming from.
Right, and and it's not. See, people misunderstand mannerisms from where you grow up and the way that you speak and with your body language and things like that, as aggressive or things like that, but they're not taken into consideration. That's the culture there. And there's different, if I lived in Oklahoma 20 years, well, they had the Oklahoma drawl. Well, after being there 20 years, I started talking with that Oklahoma drawl. Now that I'm back in Cali, I pretty much have lost it, but it's kind of with your culture and your mannerisms. So let's start from the beginning of Brian Staveley. What year was it that you woke up and began this journey, and what was it that was the catalyst for you?
2010, and that's an easy question because I came across a movie on Netflix called World Trade Center. It had Nicolas Cage in it. It wasn't a documentary. It was a motion picture. And although it turned out to be complete disinformation to send you down another rabbit trail, it did raise enough questions from what you were being told from the media that I dove all in at that point. So that's what it was for me. It was that basically that disinformation piece on Netflix.
So it's been a decade. So you've been going through this process for a decade. That's quite a long time. And so it started with seeing something that was just unbelievable. And then of course we know what happened in 2011, 9/11. And you're like, what? Wait, what? And then
You mean 2001.
Yeah, I'm sorry. 2001
was 2001. Yeah.
Well, yeah, 2001. Thank you. And I know that you spoke out about that, and you speak out in truth, things that you see you say, you point it out, you point out the obvious, the mistakes, the things that just don't make any sense. But you're also growing into, different levels. So in 2010, you seen that, and then what was the next step? I mean, how did you come across the wonderful people that you're meeting? I mean, I know this could be a really long show, but we'll try and do it in a condensed.
That's fine with it. I mean, I got really, really, really deep into 9/11, like as deep as I'm into Mandela effect now or flat earth or anything else. I mean, even deeper. But the next thing after that, so we don't have to stay there too long. But because of that, I should say that because of that, I set up my own website and radio station through my website that I would produce on my computer. That way we could broadcast the shows, and I didn't want to be associated with any platform because I already had some run-ins with some very suspect individuals in 9/11. I won't make this show about that. I'm not going to call out names or anything like that. Let's just say there were a lot of suspect individuals, and I didn't want to be associated with anybody. I just wanted to do my own thing. Mm-hmm. So I had built a site and a radio station, and with Justin Cook, and then eventually James Sloan from New Zealand joined me. So there were basically three of us. We were Real News Radio at first, and then this other place that was like, I don't know, had a similar name, started crying and bitching about it. So I was like, all right, we'll just change it. And then we became Dose of Reality. I just kept the name ever since. But anyways, so going forward, after 9/11, the next thing would have been the Gabby Gifford shooting, which was in 2011. Because I was completely fake, completely ridiculous. And, man, that's a pretty insulting event, too, because she was going around acting like she had a disability because she was shot in the head. She's over there playing a clarinet out one side of her mouth, reading music out the other side. They tell you half her face is shut down. It just was real crazy. And then after that would have been the Apollo moon missions. In 2011, I looked in late 2011, because I did a radio show debunking the moon missions in 2011. So it was sometime in 2011 I knew the moon missions were fake. And then after that, of course, there was Sandy Hook in 2012. And we called that in real time. We knew the day of. Robbie Parker was exposing himself the day of with his tweets contradicting himself and all the stuff he was saying and all the memorial funds that were already in place, even before he ever did that interview. Then those type of events got really stale.
He was like laughing, and then he's like getting into character. That, are you talking about that? Yeah. That footage?
I'm talking about that. And
oh yeah.
And even before that, when they said the school was on lockdown, he was sending out tweets like, "Oh yeah, Emily's dead," blah blah blah, and then his next tweet is like, "Oh no, she's okay," and this and that. And it's like you would never jump to the conclusion and put that out if you hadn't heard. And it was really crazy. And like Victoria Soto, her memorial was already set up. Her campaign to raise money was already set up a few days before. The what do you call it? The United Way condolences for Sandy Hook. Not only was that, because people can re-edit web pages, right? And they can still have it. They can have like a different publish date. But what? I think her phone's ringing.
Not mine.
Whose phone? Oh,
my husband's probably.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It threw me off for a second.
It's okay. Just don't mind him.
Yeah, so there were just all these fundraisers and stuff that was set up pre. The event was just so scripted. And then I would say after that, I got into looking into satellites in space, probably 2013 and the ISS. And that just took me down a whole nother journey. Now on the side, we had the Boston Marathon, which was just another fake event. We had, what was it?
How about the Murrah building? Did you ever look into the Murrah building in Oklahoma City?
No, the first thing I ever looked into was 9/11, and then moving forward, I never went back to the other things before. I would assume they would be much of the same. And so anybody gets, just to make it clear, like 9/11 truthers hate my opinions on 9/11. Because my 9/11 research tells me that nobody died on 9/11. Nobody was in the buildings. Just to be clear, so everybody knows, it goes much deeper than no planes. So all these people, all these truthers that want to mock and say, how did the normies not see it when these hospitals are empty all over the country? Well, you should check out the hospital footages on 9/11 in New York. That's just supposed to be the one epicenter of it all, because it's a big smoke break. It's a joke. And there's no footage of anybody coming out of the towers. The media capital of the world.
Club, they were going the opposite direction of the hospital with somebody that was injured. They were carrying him, and then they didn't realize that there was still somebody filming with their cell phone. And then they set the guy down, and he starts to walk normal. And they're like, "Oh, look, no, the news is again. Pick him up." It's like stuff like that. It's like, what?
The only reason most of the truth community can see that all the shootings are fake and all these other events, but they still hang on to 9/11 as real, because that's the big thing that woke them up. So they have that emotional attachment, the same emotional attachment we laugh at people about in the 60s because they believe the moon landing's real because they saw it on TV. It's the same goddamn thing. If you think that in the media capital of the world, they tell you that this, first of all, we know the planes are fake, but maybe some people don't. So the planes are fake, so I'm not even going to count that footage, but they tell you 50 people caught an unexpected 500-mile-an-hour jet off course going through the most crowded skyline. On all those footages, not one of them pans down to the street. All they do is either film the hole or they shut off.
And where did the wings go?
And then you have over an hour while the media's there doing things like interviewing the fucking Harley guy. Allegedly, if they're even on the street doing that, if that's not even green screen.
I got it up. I'm sorry.
Well, you have an hour before the towers come down. What's the nickname in New York? It's the media capital of the world, right? Mm-hmm. Every reporter in the world will be fighting to get the most dramatic shot of all time, the Pulitzer Prize winning shot, tens of thousands. They told you there were 50,000 people in there. So where's the 47,000 that made it out? Where are they?
And also, what about the footage that was where Building 7 was still standing, and she's reporting that it collapsed?
Yeah,
it's still,
and you know what?
Behind her, and she's like, and Building 7 went down, and then she's on the air, talking about it going down, supposedly live. This was in, I think, the UK, and then a few minutes later, as she's still talking, then it goes down. It's like, what? Wait a minute. We just watched it go down live with you telling us it's already down. I mean,
and they did that on purpose, and I'll get to you why they did that on purpose. That was not a mistake. And that was actually aired on several different networks. At least 4 of them, I have footage of them talking about Tower 7 down while it's still in the background. It wasn't just the BBC. Okay. But here's what happens. So when you start to look into the death of these people, it's like, how many anomalies are you going to accept? Just like with the virus, right? So there's no footage of anybody coming out of the buildings. Okay. There's all sorts of missing stuff in the debris. Let's just jump to this bullshit directed energy weapon nonsense. No, that shit just wasn't in the buildings because they were never filled to the capacity they fucking told you. Okay. And then when you actually look into these people's death records, there's 2,600 missing death certificates. How is that acceptable? 2,600. If you look at the deaths for the state of New York for 9/11 and the following days, doesn't spike at all. It's around 500-600, like it is every average day in New York State. Doesn't spike at all. And then people want to talk about photo fakery. How can't these globies see that the cartoon pictures from NASA? Dude, if you go and look in the 9/11 memorials, like the 2 most major ones, the Voices of September and the CNN one, there's like thousands of photoshopped victims in there. Like it would be Rob Simmons' worst work. Like it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
And I think about what became of that. I mean, they played it day in, day out, 24/7 on no matter what channel. And then everybody was traumatized, angry. And then they point out who did it. They had the names and then the direction and, beat the war drums. And really, I mean, they needed they needed the people to get behind the agenda for them to go and invade another sovereign country. When you start to see the handwriting on the wall, you can't unsee it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then the passion that you're expressing here is a passion towards mankind. See it. See what's going on.
I don't want people to just agree with me on this, but people won't even look into the things that I'm claiming. They won't investigate the victims. None of them. Everybody's scared to go there. It's too fucking taboo. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's ridiculous. And I want to talk about something specific. So people will bring up things like the jumpers. Oh, what about the jumpers? We saw video footage of the jumpers. If you go and look at the footage of the jumpers, which, by the way, Neil deGrasse Tyson says he filmed 4 of them. Where's that footage? I'm going to trust Neil deGrasse Tyson. But I'm not even going to say that discredits all of them. But if you look at the footage of the jumpers and the people coming out the windows, what you'll see is you will see people coming out windows that are about 3.5, 4 feet tall, and they are opening the windows and coming out. In reality, if you would do your homework, you would know that all windows at the World Trade Center were 7 feet. They don't open, and they're shatterproof. The imagery they were showing you of people coming out of the windows was simply filmed elsewhere. It's called Hollywood. It's a stage set. There weren't people jumping out of the towers. It's a completely controlled media scene. You know how I'm sure you're familiar with the Harley guy, right? And Rick Leventhal, that interview?
No, I'm not familiar. So this would
he's the schmuck on the street that was like, oh, and then I saw the second plane hit, and then the buildings collapsed, mostly due to structural failure. The pilot just
now I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Besides, now everybody here knows that's complete ridiculous, right? But that's not the point. The point is these 2 guys, right? They just pull it off like no big deal, right? Now I want to talk about Robbie Parker. We're gonna go back.
Okay.
Most truthers would agree Sandy Hook is completely fake, but they won't go where I'm going on 9/11. Robbie Parker comes forward, he laughs, takes a deep breath, goes into composure, goes into this whole spiel about his daughter being killed, right? Why was he able to laugh before that and make that speech? What's the main reason?
After, I don't know how familiar you are with my situation, but, a little over a year ago, I lost my daughter she's 27 years old. And I'm going to tell you to laugh, smile, or even come up to even have that kind of a behavior come about is not possible. I was so traumatized and in shock. I wouldn't be able to stand in front of a camera and string a sentence together. So I'm with you on this completely. And excuse the mowers. You guys hear it. If you hear me muting in and out, it's that. So
and that's the same reason why people like Rick Leventhal, Mark Humphreys, Mark Walsh, whatever the hell that guy's name is, and I know that's not their child, but we'll get to that. That's why they can just do this, no problem, because people aren't really getting crushed by buildings behind them. That's why they can go through and do this. That's why Todd Beamer, hey, Mom, it's me, Todd Beamer. You believe me? Don't know that. Mark Bingham. Hey, me, it's Mark Bingham. You believe me, don't you? And he calls his mother on the phone, says his last name. His mother's on a Good Morning America type show the next day, laughing. Maybe years later, you could laugh and reminisce about your kid. On September 12th, you're going to be laughing. It's just like the Robbie Parker thing. It's a complete joke. And all they want to do, just like with the virus, just like with all the shootings, is they want to steer you in a direction of fear. So they don't care if you think it's thermite. They don't care if you think it's the directed energy weapon. They don't care if you think it's Dmitry Kalasov's and it's bullshit mini nukes. They don't care if you think they'd rather obviously have you think it's the official story, but most people aren't going to believe that. But they want you to be in fear. That's why my videos get taken down. But all those people, like Judy Wood, architects and engineers for 9/11, they're all frauds. That's why they can put all their stuff out. My stuff gets taken down for hate speech because I'm the one trying to get people to lose the fear. It's all nonsense. Nonsense.
I know the mowers are like really loud right now, so please excuse that. But so that is the part on your truther side. But you're also, as you're attracted to people like Karen B, who's like spiritually awakened. You've got that also going on within your journey. So you're wanting people to see the truth around them. You're also wanting them to wake up and introspect and do their own research. They don't have to agree with you, but come, don't be just following a narrative, turn the box off, do some actual research, or use your own eyes and discernment. So now it started off with truther. You saw things plain as day. Yeah. It just like bam, popped open for you. And then then what was the next, evolution? Because you've evolved far beyond just the truther. You're more complex than that at this moment.
Well, Yeah, well, that would go from, after 9/11 into Apollo. You could debunk the moon landing in a night, which I did. Obviously, I stick with it longer to be sure and stuff. But the first night. I mean, in the first couple hours, it's especially after looking at 9/11 fakery. How are you going to show me Apollo fakery? I mean, it's a complete joke. You just never think to look at these things. So then after Boston and Sandy Hook was first, and then Boston. It was, like I said, into satellites and the ISS. And then after that, in the middle of 2014, I saw this video from a channel called Stuff They Don't Really Want You to Know. What it was a hit piece channel. Basically, it has like hundreds of videos, one of every conspiracy, complete disinfo, and had this flat Earth one, right? And I had never heard of the idea before. This is like June 2014, so there weren't any flat Earth videos yet. Matthew Powerland was out there, but he was like the only one that anybody knows that was out there in 2014.
I know him. Yeah, he's the artist.
Yeah, he's logo in the cabeza, but I'll be nice. He's never done anything mean to me. Just a little weird.
No. You want to talk about someone that's kind of aggressive and a little egocentric? Yeah, go to Matt. If you want to sit there and pound down on Mr. Staveley for trying to open people's eyes, if you really want to see somebody that's driven by ego, I mean, he'll tell you, he discovered it. He was the first one. And, when you get to a certain point with this journey, you realize it no longer matters who's seeing which Mandela effect first or who discovered what first. It's the information, the research that you do, and then you present it. That part of it, that ego part leaves. It's more about what you're doing for society, what you're trying to do, what your passion's coming from.
I want to give him credit for something, though. His early videos, the photo painting, was a brilliant idea. Very good video.
The T-shirts. I love the T-shirts.
Like I said, the guy's never been nothing bad to me. He's definitely a little loopy, though.
Well, he's an artist.
Yeah. Anyway, I have heard the words come out of his mouth saying, "I created the flat Earth."
Yes.
I'm just like, is this guy God? There he is?
Yeah, he has said that.
I know.
Oh, I know.
I made a few memes out of that. I get a good laugh at him about that.
But you move beyond that, and it's no longer the competition. It's more about
I can't tell you the last time I looked at this channel, honestly. He started playing crappy music all the time. I was out. Okay, I don't want to talk about Matt.
No. I'm just talking the difference between trying to, awaken people with the passion that you express, rather than it's not like you're saying you're right, and if you don't see it exactly my way, you're an idiot. It's not like that at all.
No.
There's an evolution here that we're touching on of what has brought you to where you are now, and each step. So when did you become aware of the Mandela effect, and how did that impact your walk?
Oh, well, that would have been shortly after Flat Earth. So I started, like I said, 2014 in the summer, saw that disinfo piece. A lot of it made sense to me, though, because they were talking about people thinking Flat Earthers think all of NASA's imagery is fake. Right away, I'm like, well, that makes sense to me, So I went pretty deep, pretty hard into that. I wasn't really sure until like late fall of 2014. I still have the first couple of radio shows. I talked about it in the end of 2014. It's interesting to hear some of the stuff that I say in that, because I was just like learning it. But right around that time, in late 2014, is the first time I had heard of it. And it was, I hate this answer because it's the same goddamn answer everybody gives. Go ahead, ask me what the first one was.
That's what I was going to ask. Which one? I mean, I want a personal, because when I got the first one that physically changed in my hands, it's different than seeing logos. I mean, it really my whole body went, like it like buzzed. It just shook me to my core. Which one was that for you?
Well, the first one I saw was the Berenstain, right? So it didn't have a huge thing on me, but I still knew that something was not right,
Mm-hmm.
And it took a couple months after, probably, and then it was South America. South America is about it's like 1,500 miles to the east now, and the fucking Panama Canal is north and south, and the Panama Canal is east and west. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That's what it was to me. And for anybody that doesn't understand the Mandela effect, I would want to say one thing, right?
I know they're going to demonetize this one for language, but I don't care. The interview's too good. So
if they don't agree with one, don't dismiss the whole thing, because that's not how it works. We all see different ones. And if even one you're sure of, then you're affected. But here's the thing. Everybody's affected by way more than one. And anybody that has a conversation with me about it and answers the questions I ask, honestly, I will get them on dozens. And everybody knows that.
Right.
They might not admit it, but I will prove everybody's affected. I always do.
So was it a store that you went into that you noticed that the name is changed? Mine was my Bible. I was reading the New Testament, and I put my place marker in, and then when I would pick it back up again, and I would go and I would read back a few verses to get back into the flow where I left off. It changed. It changed from denarius to penny. I'm sorry about the mowers. So that's the one I wanted to hear about from you. Which one was it that you physically in your space? Your neighborhood.
My neighborhood changed.
Centerville.
My neighborhood changed. Neighborhood changing its name, and nobody's taking the update still. That's the craziest part. That is the craziest part.
And I think
when I was out in Cali just recently, as you know, with Steffi, and I went to my uncle's house, and he watches my channel, right? But he didn't. He missed the whole Centerville thing, and Steffi had mentioned it to him that Centerville doesn't exist. He's like, "What are you talking about?" No, it's always been Centralville now. And you've seen all the calls we've made, all the real estate, all the residue, all the people that sell their houses from here listed as Centerville. I called City Hall and asked them to name the different neighborhoods. Centerville. I mean, come on. Everybody I've asked, everybody I filmed, nobody even says Centralville. Even the businesses that is surrounding the sign that changed, and when the whole thing changed.
Well, I'll tell you what. I went to high school, and the high school that I went to was named after the city that the high school was located in, which is pretty commonplace, right?
Yeah.
Well, on Mother's Day, my mom was over here, and I had mentioned to her, I said, hey, I went down to go see an old friend, and Alta Loma is gone. It's now all Cucamonga. And so she's like, no. Because my sister got married and they had the reception at her husband's parents' house. So my parents, sent out the invitations, mother of the bride, and then they would put the address of where the reception would be held afterwards, and it had an Alta Loma, and address. Okay. She looked it up because she didn't believe me. She looked it up on her phone, and not only is it gone, but that city didn't even exist. They had changed it. 2 years before we even moved to that location? So in 1977, it was supposedly all absorbed into that one big city. When I graduated in 1986 in Alta Loma from Alta Loma High School, and my sister got married in 89, and the address was in Alta Loma. And to find out, they actually showed that it was there was a change, but it was actually 2 years before we even moved to that area. Yeah. So it blew her mind. So, watching my mom go through an awakening and get jarred by an effect like that, was pretty interesting, and it opens her mind up more. So for your place where you live and where we live for so long to not exist, it's like, what?
Yeah, and nobody says it the new way. It's not like people say, oh, you know how with the Mandela effect, oh, no, it's always been. They don't say, oh, no, it's always been Centralville. They still think they live in a place that doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. All of them. Like Centerville. I mean, you've seen me bring up so much residue from police departments, from city budgets, to newspapers, to all the fucking businesses I called live on the air and asked them what neighborhood they're in. Every Uber driver. How many times did I record the Uber drivers? I mean, come on. And I want to talk about something else too. Let me touch back on South America.
Sure.
Let me touch back on South America.
You, Brian. It's all about you.
I know when I bring up these geography Mandela effects, what people will say, well, Brian, You don't live on a globe. Well, Brian, you can't use a flat Earth map. Well, Brian, don't you know map projections change? Dude, Brian is not a fucking idiot, okay? What I'm saying when I say South America is 1,500 miles to the east now, and the Panama Canal no longer goes east and west. Do you remember what I remember? What about Cuba? What's Cuba look like to you? Because for me, Cuba was a small island to the southeast of Florida. Is that what you remember? Now I want you to go look at a map.
Geography was never a strong suit for me, but I'm going to tell you, even though it wasn't a strong suit, I can see that everything is out of place and disarray. The land down under is no longer the land down under.
Now New Zealand is farther south. But here's the thing I was trying to get to the point is, if you remember like I did, here's the thing. Don't talk about how maps can change, map projections, Google Earth is fake. I get all that, dude. We're way past that.
And we're at 2014, 2015 in your journey, just to remind everybody that's watching.
If you remember that Cuba's a little island, or that Italy was a boot like this, now it's 45 degrees cocked back like this. Here's the thing.
Boot kicked the ball. Now it's attached almost.
If you think this is fake and it's just a map projection change, then go pull out the globe out of your basement. Go pull out your encyclopedia. Go pull the flat Earth map off your wall and show me that Cuba is just a tiny island and that South America is under North America, where almost all of us remember it. Because you can't. Because that's all changed. Now, everybody looks at that's impossible. People will come into this dismissing it due to the nature that they say it's impossible because that can't happen. That doesn't fit their rules of reality. Their rules of reality were given to them to the same people that gave them the spinning ball Earth, the 93 million mile sun, fake science at CERN. Those are the same people that you think give you these rules of reality, that these things can't change. Listen, everybody knows Ed McMahon worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. Mm-hmm. Ed McMahon is also from here. He's from Lowell. Everybody knows Ed McMahon worked there. There is so much residue, yet people will see the New American Family publishing stuff and just say, oh, I must have always been. Remember, if you learn anything on these journeys, it should be to trust your intuition, your senses, and your memory is part of it. Your memory's not perfect, no, but your memory isn't failing at the exact same time as everybody else is all of a sudden in the last few years, in sync with everybody and on all the same shit. Ed McMahon fucking worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. If he didn't, why does Johnny Carson go on the David Letterman show, sit down with a giant Publishers Clearinghouse check, signed with Ed McMahon, and make a joke and say, I'm sorry, but Ed couldn't be here tonight, but you're the lucky $1 million winner. Johnny's his fucking partner for 30 years. You don't think he knows where he works?
Right.
You have anybody, Publishers Clearinghouse, they'll say Ed McMahon, Ed McMahon, Ed McMahon, Ed McMahon. Dude, Ed McMahon was from
Clearinghouse. They're trying to say it now it's a different one. Remember, then they tried to set up. There you go. And that's not.
That's not. Now, I want to talk about another one. Let me bang out a couple of my big effects real quick while I'm getting fired up. All right?
All right, it's all you.
So for those of you that come from a journey of looking through 9/11, fake events, false flags, things like this, right? You hear about all this other shit, right? I mean, Pearl Harbor, obviously you hear about it. Things like Gulf of Tonkin, you know, all sorts of shit you hear about, different things that might be false flags, right? I looked at 9/11 as deep as anybody. I was in there for like 4 or 5 years nonstop, like really deep, obviously with the views I have, right? Now.
Okay, so just to be clear, now we're back at 2010.
We're back at 2010 just to lay the groundwork for this Mandela effect and why it's such an anchor effect for me. Okay. So when you think of the first foreign attack on U.S. soil, what do you guys think it is? Because this is something you would hear over and over and over on 9/11 again, over and over and over in all the documentaries. And I'll just skip to the chase because I know everybody's going to agree. Pearl Harbor, right? You would say Pearl Harbor is the first foreign attack on U.S. soil. That's what everybody would say. Now, here's the problem. Now, Pearl Harbor is not the first attack on U.S. soil. In fact, Black Tom, and I ask people who Black Tom is, they'll say, who? Black Tom's an event, okay? Now Black Tom is the first attack on U.S. soil. But get a load of how big and significant
You've talked about this many times, and I do want you to expand on Black Tom. I know you bring it up, you know, but let's go back to what is Black Tom? Explain that so that people can. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Our entire history with the Germans is changing due to the Mandela effect. And we'll get into some other events that have significantly changed. But with Black Tom, now the first foreign attack on U.S. soil was in 1916. Now think about this and how you didn't hear about this on 9/11. No matter your views on 9/11. Now 2 German spies snuck in through New Jersey, blew off 100,000 pounds of TNT, injured 120 people, killed 5, including throwing a baby in the river, did what would be $500 million in today's damage, and damaged the torch of the Statue of Liberty so bad that nobody's ever been up there. Yet, before I even get to that part, now, we've never heard about this on 9/11. Okay, it's like down the street. That's not going to be mentioned. That's the symbol of like American freedom, as bullshit as that is. Not going to be mentioned. Nobody's ever heard of it. I asked everybody. Nobody has ever heard of it. There was only one person that told me they heard of it, and that's a known liar. That Concave Ernie told me that just to be in spite of me, and he knew where I was going with it. Nobody's ever heard of it, and never believe a concaver. But anyways, we have spoken to many people that have been to the torch, but now that's not possible in this reality. Anybody that has pictures of them in the torch, completely gone. Truth Seeker 69's mother's been to the torch. She's come on the show and talked about it. Karen B did a little thing at the amusement park where they reenacted the scene from one of these movies. I forget what movie it was. I think she's in the chat. Where it was a person hanging from the torch because they had been up in the torch. People have been to the torch, but now nobody's been to the torch. And the Statue of Liberty, as we know, just keeps changing. But the fact that I want to know. So here's the thing, people. Is the Mandela effect real? And you'll admit that our history is changing? Or are you just a shit researcher? Because how do you fucking go through 9/11 and all these other topics and you've never heard of the first foreign attack on U.S. soil? And I'm going to tell you, I don't think you guys are shit researchers. That's why I bring this up. Everybody's going through this. And then when you get to Torpedo Alley, which is another German attack, this is even bigger. This is bigger than 9/11. 5,000 Americans killed off the coast of fucking North Carolina, which they're now saying was the main battleground of World War II, was the coast of North Carolina. 5,000 dead, where we lost 500 ships, right? 500 ships to 8 German U-boats that came over and just buried us on the coast. Well, I guess that was just swept under the rug, and we just never heard of that, right? And I got video now. There's video of these fucking boats blowing up in the ocean. And then, because people will say, oh, well, that's just a Wikipedia entry, Brian. You know they lie about history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I showed video footage of scuba divers in the ocean showing the wreckage of the fucking sunken ships. And then, because this thing trolls me, within a week of making that video, one of those ships washes up on the shore a few hundred miles from where Karen lives. What are the U-boats? Not even kidding.
Well, thank you. Now, if you bring that up,
Who's heard of Torpedo Alley? Who's heard of if you've heard of Torpedo Alley, hit 1. If you've never heard of Torpedo Alley, hit 2. And then I'll ask about Black Tom. Same with Black Tom. Who's heard of Black Tom? Nobody's heard of Black Tom. How many people we got here? I'll tell you how many heard of. Other than in this community.
What about the balloons? The supposed balloon attacks that happened too. That was something else that came up, and
10,000 balloons from the Japanese balloon bombs over Oregon, where they released 10,000 balloon bombs and sent them over. Supposedly, let the wind stream, the jet stream, take them over. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got. Can you see the chat?
I see the chat. Yeah.
Okay, so you can see that they are responding. It's pretty divided, 1s and 2s, and then somebody 3. That wasn't an option.
Yeah.
Oh, here you go. Where'd it go? It's moving too fast. There we go.
Yes, because I like to go with the historical ones because people think it's all, or the geography because people think, oh, it's all about, something that can change in the media. Here's the stuff with the media changes, though. The media changes ones. Just you talk to somebody about an anatomy change or geography change, they usually just fucking freeze up. These fucking people are walking around with masks. I mean, they don't really know much. So you got to come at them with the songs that change. Like everybody knows Jules' song, "Who Will Save Your Soul," right?
Mm-hmm.
No, not anymore. Now in the song she says, "Who will save your souls?" with an S. Here's the thing. Pull the record off your shelf and debunk me, because you can't.
Right, because it not only changes, but it changes the physical, the materialistic things around us. I mean, you can't. Once it changed and it vibrates through, in the frequency and the vibration, the matter changes to fit along with this new narrative that does not follow along with what we actually experienced, lived through, and seen a lot of times with our own eyes, or an experience like you talked about, Karen, going up into the torch, or knowing somebody that went up and got photos, an actual experience that they had. That is not possible. You can't take somebody's actual experience and say, no, it's been shut down since, way before then because of X, Y, and Z happened. I mean, it's so out there, the Mandela effect.
Come on. Everybody knows if you build it, they will come. Now, if baseball picks back up again this year, they're going to host a game out at that field in Ohio where they filled of Dreams. Everybody knows it was if you build it, they will come. Everybody knows that. I have a video on that has so much residue as well. Not that we need it. Nobody ever says it he. Okay, nobody ever says it he. But yes, if you go home and you check your video, it's going to say he. That's how this works, because the official version is going to change. But for whatever reason, and I'll get into what I think, things that are done in parodies and skits and offshoots of things, and people that make artistic drawings, that's what will remain, the way that people remember it, the way that they created it. I think it has to do with something to do with the human emotion that's played into it, rather than just the other thing, I mean, we don't know why it's happening, but we know it's happening. We know. I saw an article come out today claiming that, saying that, these Mandela effect people claim there's like 100 changes. 100 changes? There were weeks where we had 100 things change.
Way more than that.
Changes.
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, there's probably 100 changes in the first 10 pages of your Bible. I mean, come on, man. Everybody knows the lion laid with the lamb. It wasn't the fucking wolf. Anytime you ask anybody 11:6 what animal lies with the lamb, they're always going to say the lion.
It's not the wolf dwells with the lamb. It's not. It's never been that ever.
Let's take this translation issue at hand right now and bury it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So people will say, "Oh, well, that's just an issue because at first it was in the King James Bible." Okay, Isaiah 11:6 changed. And it changed to the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, which changes the whole meaning of it, obviously, right? The wolf is a house, right? So now it says wolf. So you would tell people, first, this is what the Mandela deniers do. Hey, Isaiah 11:6, what animal lies with the lamb? They'll be like the lion. Then you'll tell them it changed. Oh, the word of God can't change, blah, 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 blah. And then eventually, if they go and check, they'll look at it. They'll come back. Oh, it's always been the wolf. Or they'll tell you, it's just a translation issue. The King James, Hebrew to blah, 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 right? Because then all the other versions hadn't changed yet. But then we watched them incrementally change in like 30 different versions of the Bible. They all went from lion to wolf. And if these people that were trying to debunk us would actually do some research and would have paid attention like we were telling them, look, it's changing. All these ones that you just saw hadn't changed. And you said our one was the one that was screwed up in a mistranslation. Now they all say it. Now every version of the Bible, every version says the wolf and not the lion. That's a change that is in every version. Here's the one I want to talk about. I come through a flat earth journey, right? This is what I'm passionate about, right? So check this out. I'm not a Christian. I don't claim to be. Never go to church. Nothing like that, right? But I would frequent Christian-based flat earth versus globe discussions, just to hear the debates. Then, of course, the debates would get into the Bible, which, I know there's some truth in there. I don't know how much, and it's not my thing, but, I like to take information from everywhere.
Right.
And there's this meme that goes around a lot where people say that there's 200 proofs that the earth is flat in the Bible. And there are all these different quotes, that would definitely tell you that you're not on the globe. Mm-hmm. Okay, it doesn't exactly say the words flat, but stationary, fixed, immovable, earth has no curves, all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And then what would happen? Now, first off, I want to lay the preface with the Bible that most flat earthers read, okay? And I don't want to generalize, but I know this for a fact because I would always ask people and you would hear them talk about it. It's the King James Bible, which is fortunate for a guy like me when I want to point out Mandela effects, isn't it? Because we all know which Bible. Which Bible has the most changes?
King
You know what I mean? I got Daryl Marble the other night. It was awesome. In a live stream, he did a whole. I'll get into that too. So they would get into these discussions, and they would bring up the 200 proofs that the Earth is flat and show the globe believers, right? And then the discussion would take another turn. The discussion would go like this.
There's my Bible. And see all the flags in it? Those are all the changes that I've seen, and I can't even keep up with them all. It changes so much all the time that I can't keep up with it. I can't.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. This is a King James version, and this has been in my possession. Didn't go anywhere. This is the one that I was reading that changed overnight and freaked me out. I mean, that was the one that, like shook me to my core, was when I saw it physically change in my hand on something that, nobody snuck in here and swapped my Bible, because my notes and stuff are still in here. So I'm with you, Brian. Keep going. I love your passion. I love your drive. And
yeah. Oh, I'm gonna lay it on thick right on the end of this one, because people are either going to be liars or deniers when it comes down to it. Because, okay, so you show the globe believer the 200 proofs, right? And then it gets to the next level. And then the flat earther turns to the globe believer and says, well, planets aren't even in the Bible. Here's the thing. Do I think the flat earthers were lying to the globe believers? No, I don't. Here's where I'm going with this. What would have happened if they would have said planets aren't even in the Bible? Here comes the Globey. Opens the book. Kings 2, 23:5. Planets. Oh, well, that's just a translation issue. That means constellation or wandering star. That's what people would say. No, planets wasn't in there. They all know planets wasn't in there. So either the Mandela effect is real, and now constellations change to planets in your Bible, or you were fucking lying the whole time. And you were lying to the Globey, telling them that planets wasn't in the Bible when it was. Take your pick. Were you lying, Christian-based flat earthers, with that argument? Or are you going to admit the Mandela effect is real and stop denying the changes? Because planets is in your Bible. Kings 23:5. Check it out. KJV. Planets. Wasn't in that. Neither was Matrix. Matrix is in there about 7 times now. Instead of coming out of your mother's womb, you come out of her Matrix. And when I say KJV Bible, I don't mean go online. You can go online. You can take out your 1611 that you've had for 400 years out of your attic, and you're going to open it up, and it's going to say planets in there. Mm-hmm. So none of those discussions make any sense now. Am I calling all those people bad people or liars? No, I love most of those people. I'm not calling them liars at all. I'm trying to wake them the fuck up. Your scripture's changing. Right. How more obvious can it be? Planets is in your Bible now. And I'm not saying planets is real. I know that's a joke, but it's in there.
Yeah, because if you think about it, when it was Abraham, and then he had Isaac, and then Jacob, and then when he was teaching, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Abraham had his 2 sons, Ishmael, and oh my gosh, I just went blank on his second son. Anyways, the second son was the son of promise. And when he was teaching him how to, get around this plane, he would say, oh, there's animals in the sky. So by the animals in the sky, he would be able to get the direction. They were never said that they were planets. The constellations they looked like in the form of animals on a way to direct yourself around this plane. Now, I'm not a flat earth component. I'm more into a realm. There's different realms. And whenever there's like a polar opposite, when it's either it has to be this way or that way, then I know if you only have the 2 choices, it's neither. There's something else that we have not quite stepped into yet. There's another possibility because it's infinite. But yeah, I'm totally with you on these biblical changes. Not only that, Brian, in Christianity alone, there's 35,000 different denominations. So from one basic book, where they were all one together, they broke away from Rome, and then they broke away. Now we've got 35,000 different interpretations of the one book that they made doctrines and beliefs about. So how can one group sit there and say that they've got the truth and the other one doesn't? So that's where, when it comes to religions and things.
That's why I don't let everybody put any label on me now. I used to be a 9/11 no planer or a flat earther whatever you want to call a Mandela effect. I don't let anybody put any of that on me, because
They
then
shouldn't.
people get lost in. Like, I have so many friends that are in flat Earth still, and they won't look at the Mandela effect because it doesn't fit what they believe, and they think they're going to have to change a lot of things or whatever. Well, that's just how it is. It's the nature of our reality. You're going to have to deal with it and reassess everything, just like you reassessed everything when you woke up to 9/11, just like you reassessed everything when you woke up to the medical fraud, just like when you reassessed everything when you woke up to flat Earth. It's time to reassess everything again, because our reality is changing, and it's happening to everybody, and I can really easily show everybody's affected.
And just because of, you're not in a religious, that has no bearing on what is going on with this phenomena. One thing that I've noticed is there's no rhyme or reason to the people who have gotten the eyes to see what is going on, and the passion that they have on sharing this with other people in the hopes from their heart on bringing them the truth, or to have them explore other options. And that's what I see when you're talking. I don't care that you're not religiously affiliated. Actually, that makes you more open-hearted to diverse cultures, and to be able to have a broader base to speak to all people with equality, and see the unity and the beauty in each culture. But also, no matter what direction people come from, there's one truth that we're all going, no matter what your culture is, that we're all walking into. And the passion that you share with your experiences and all the research and the different people that you have come on, it's a beautiful ensemble of different cultures, backgrounds. You don't judge on that. You're right.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to get everybody to come together and put all the pieces of the puzzle on the table. And I always stress the flat Earth, the Mandela effect, all these things I talk about, they're not the most important topic, because they're all pieces. You can't say this is the finish line. And I see people do that at different stages all the time. We've all been guilty of it at times, but there's always more. There'll be more after this. Who would have thought there'd be this fucking fake virus? Now all of a sudden we're looking into the science behind viruses, all in the matter of a couple months. We all have to become doctors now. You know what I mean? What's the next big thing? Who knows? It's not going to stop, though. And it's not even like this is a little thing. This is as big as 9/11 now, or bigger. It just keeps going.
It's a control narrative, and you're trying to break down the fear narrative to bring people truth, so they can lose the fear and walk in the peace and truth that resides within them. That's what I see when I listen to you, when I listen to Karen, when I listen to the guests that you bring on. You're breaking down things in a tangible way to bring people to critically think and to push away anything that puts fear in you. Do some research. You do the research. And not only do you do the research, you walk the walk you talk. We're going to get to that, because we're still at 2014, 15 in the Mandela effect. And then, we're kind of jumping around on your journey. I know I could see where you're at now. To say, I wouldn't want to put a label of any kind of a religion, or you're not a cult leader, or any of that. You hear mudslinging things. It's just weird. But to walk without labeling people, to have that passion to want to bring this truth out to people, and the awareness to bring for themselves, to start looking around with their heart, their mind, their eyes, their senses. What are you walking out? When you were on your trip and you did a bunch of clips and you walked into places with no mask, and you bought what you wanted and you did what you wanted, and you walk with your conviction. You're not telling people to do anything that you're not doing yourself. So from the Mandela effect, now where was your next big leap? When did you start deciding that, okay, I know you did the radio and that in the earlier days, but when did you decide to go full on board, like you are now? I got to get this out there.
Right.
I need to know.
All right. So we were kind of jumping forward and back on the Mandela effect. So let's go back to 9/11 and me wrapping that up in 2014. I got sick of the shit and all the people talking shit and just all the nonsense of it. So in 2014, I just took a break for 3 years. I still did my thing on Facebook, but I didn't talk, no voice, no video. And then in late 2017, now during all this This is when I started to look into the Mandela effect and flat earth. So when I bring you up to 2017, that's what I was doing. I was looking at both of those topics, but I wasn't making a presence on YouTube. I was doing everything on Facebook. So I made a lot of friends in those communities on Facebook. That's basically what happened. So up until late 2017, and then I'm like, because I've always had a YouTube channel. Most of us have had it for a decade to save clips, whatever, research. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start uploading my old 9/11 shows in order. So I uploaded 25 of them in order from like 2010 forward so people could hear through my journey, you know, because it's really in-depth stuff too. People really need to hear it from the beginning. And it worked out for a couple months, and then they just started issuing strikes. The censorship wasn't anywhere near what it is now, but I realized I couldn't just do that. And then what happened is, fast forward to the summer of 2018, I jumped on a few roundtables with Brian McFarlane, Mandela Effect roundtables. And then I was like, why am I not just doing my own show? You know what I mean? So like a couple weeks later, I started doing my own shows. I think I interviewed James, I interviewed Paul. And then the first video I did, I interviewed Gloria. And then after that, me and Gloria started doing shows. And then me, Gloria, and Paul. And then, you know, last summer it winded down to just me and Paul. And then it was Paul had left, and then Karen joined in like September last year. And then that kind of takes us to where we are now.
She's amazing, by the way. I just want to say that you and Karen kind of offset each other. She's like the calm, you know, spiritual piece, and you're the passionate, fact-finding, you know. So there's a good vibe that comes from that from you two doing shows together. I really enjoy the Thursday Unveiling This Realm show that you guys do. It's really, I recommend you guys subscribe to her channel also, Karen B.
You know how that show came to be? Karen used to get kind of triggered by the Mandela effect, and I know she's listening. She hated it, right? She wasn't like overly rude about it or anything like some people, and I remember I went on Zulu One show one time last summer. It was like I went on there like 2 or 3 times before, you know, back then. And I went on and talked about the Mandela effect. Everybody was kind of against it. And one day, though, she called into the show like a couple weeks later, and she just like went on like a 15-minute rant about it and how she got it. And she started explaining it. I'm like, oh my God. And then she's like, I want to do a show about it on my channel. Will you come on my channel and do it? So yeah, of course I will. Fucking fantastic. There'll be a couple hundred people there. I can lay it down to all these people I'm trying to get it to resonate with. We went over there, had an awesome show, and then I'm like, well, you need to return the favor and come over to my channel and do a flat earth show with me so we can lay it down to all these Mandela people that don't see that. And we basically did that, and then, you know, here we are now.
Yes, I pulled up her. Yeah, she's listening. I wanted to make sure you knew she's out there.
I already told her she's like Princess Leia. I'm Luke Skywalker, and Ted is Han Solo. So,
and since you're sticking your toes in the water over here, I hope that she's willing to do the same soon. You know, whenever she's feels more comfortable with me. But okay, so you've only really been full blown at this for a couple of years now.
Not even 2 years. Next month will be 2 years as far as making videos. I've made like 600 videos already.
Wow. And look where you're at now. You're a phenomena. You're an anomaly. I mean, it's only going to get bigger and broader of an audience. But you're going to get, you know, the naysayers and attract different, you know, things. But the one thing, if they're coming and at least listening, even if they may be making comments that are distasteful or whatnot, okay, they're still listening. You're still planting those seeds, which at some point, maybe you won't be the one that sees them come into fruition. But at some point, maybe when you're not looking, they are now researching because they listen. No matter what they say in the chat, they're still listening to what you and Karen or you and whoever else, because you've got quite a nice broad audience for being such a young platform. My goodness. Every time I go into one of your streams, there's a couple hundred or so people there. anytime. I mean, that speaks
And they're
volumes.
all good people.
Passion.
They're all good people. They're not people that are going to spew any hate or anything, because we don't breed hate around here. Channels that name call and do all that hateful shit, you can see who's in their chat and those type of people. We don't have that in our chat. And I tell people straight out, don't be rude to somebody if they don't see the Mandela effect, or if they think they live on a globe, or if they think 9/11's real. Like, we all have different things, and I have a lot of polarizing topics I talk about. If you just came to my channel and agreed with me on all those things that I've been talking about, I would think you're fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah, and you know what? Just like the Mandela effect, there's some that affect me that don't affect other people, and that's part of this growth process. Is to what I call it is find the unity in the diversity, the different cultures which make us unique, but there's also one thing we all have in common, and that is that we all have a heart, we all breathe, we have a body, we're here to experience, and we are linked, to the one creator, even though we're all having a unique experience. It's a beautiful thing to see. And anybody that would come on and just say, I know this is how it has to be 100%. If you don't do it this way, you're going to use condemnation. I click off, because that's one thing we're learning as we're moving along this, is that, a truth for you, an experience for you can be very different for me. Could be, but both are valid, because yours is an experience you had and nobody can take that from you. And mine is an experience I had and nobody can take that from me. As for the Statue of Liberty, can we touch back on that just a little bit?
Because she, as we know, she has a lot of other changes to her cosmetically and whatnot. I mean,
her size, where she was located. Now she's on a star fort. And one thing that this is something personally that I'm looking and watching for. There's a chain around her ankle, which means that the Statue of Liberty is actually in some sort of bondage. When I see those chains gone, I know we are really making headway.
And she's stepping off the platform now.
Yeah.
And also, I know, guys, we know what star forts are now, but let's be honest, most of us didn't know before all this Tartaria stuff started coming about and whatnot. Well, in this reality, the Statue of Liberty has always been on a star fort. And if you ask anybody what the Statue of Liberty is, including that guy that was supposedly in that debate with me, that guy that I mopped the floor with him, and he said the whole thing's fake. And I'm like, where's the Statue of Liberty? And he's like, Ellis Island. Well, it's not on Ellis Island. And now in this reality, it's always been on Liberty Island. And we're supposedly just mixing it up. Let me ask you this. If the Statue of Liberty has always been on an island called Liberty Island, how would you ever mix it up with anywhere else?
Also, it's two different states, Brian. Liberty Island is in New Jersey, and Ellis Island is in New York. I mean, it's so blatant. When people were coming in, they seen that by boat or whatever, when they were immigrating in, they would go to Ellis Island to go through the process, and the first thing that they would see was that huge Statue of Liberty. And on that island, and that would be, we're here, So for that, I mean, that is such a huge change. It's just huge.
And the torch now is 24 karat gold. But for me, that's only in the last 3 years. But now the torch has been 24 karat gold for 30 years. Since 1986. How many years is that? I just estimated a number. What is that? 25 years?
I'm not going to say because I'll give away my age.
I'm getting so I'm losing track of years. I'm going senile.
And let's see. 87, 97, 2007, 2017. So there's 30-something years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's tons of people. Again, we don't have to talk about media changes. I mean, if I told you what does King Tut's headrest look like, people, what's on the headrest? What's on above where his nose is? What's on King Tut's headrest in Egypt?
His headdress on top of his sarcophagus. I think it's a serpent.
Yeah, well, now it's a serpent and a bird. There's a serpent and a vulture. There's two here now instead of one symmetrical in the middle. Now it's a serpent and a bird. That's thousands of years old. That's not somebody fucking around with Google. It's not somebody pulling a psyop on you. Again,
and Moses has horns. What about that one? Have
Moses
you?
Has horns.
Yep.
Yeah,
Moses has horns.
they got bigger too. They're actually like large now.
Wow. Do you ever wonder that if some of these things, like Moses brought the law and him having horns, um, do you ever think that maybe that's supposed to be like a truth drop for people who notice that, okay, that all of these laws being put in place are a form of bondage and we're coming out of that?
Yeah. Well, look at a lot of things. I mean, now you got the wolf instead of the lion, right? Also, if you go to the Sistine Chapel and you look at the hand of the creation of man, with the hand coming down from God to Adam, now God isn't coming down to Adam. Now they are even. Now Adam is even with God.
And did you notice that God is sitting inside of a brain now? It looks like a brain. Yeah. What?
And of course we can get into all the changes with the Last Supper. I mean,
tons. Okay, so now we bounce back to 2014. So, and I know that you now do current events. You have the spiritual aspect going on, and then you have the passion of telling people to, with what we're going through now today, in biology or even health class in junior high, we learned about, anatomy, our immune system. We learned what a virus was versus a bacteria. And you always knew that, if you had a virus or allergies, that you just rested and you got over it. Now, all of a sudden, a virus is a deadly disease. I mean, it took a big jump. You go to a doctor to see for a bacterial infection, not a virus. That's bed rest, chicken noodle soup. So you want to talk a little bit about the fear narrative there and how you're trying to break through that paradigm for people?
Well, I mean, when this happens, I mean, this is basically my calling again, because again, everything I looked, and I know I took some time off from the media fakery and the psyops and all that, because I've been a lot deeper into the Mandela effect, but this is so important right now, and I can see it for what it is from day one. You know what I mean? I see all the same type of actors and empty hospitals and the way they run psyops upon psyops and the way they try to manipulate people. It's all, I'm not saying we called it every step of the way, because nobody did. We all made mistakes along the way. This is crazy. Oh, yeah. This is different because we're trying to call it in real time. It's not like looking at 9/11 a few years after it. You know what I mean? Right. We're trying to see what's going on in real time. But yeah, again, the big thing that they use is the media. The media is the number one enemy. It's got to be. The media is the worst. I mean,
propaganda.
The media it's got everybody so brainwashed and in such a state of fear, and they need everybody in a state of fear to keep them in control. And now it's got where I see it's gotten to a point where it's like, I mean, this is pretty much, it's all I've been talking about lately. I've slipped in a few Mandela effect videos here and there when I felt I needed to, because there were things to call out or point out. But yeah, man, I've been doing like 3 videos a day on the COVID thing, because there is no virus. And people have just not only living in fear, they've literally shut down the whole world by suggestion and words. And for anybody that still thinks that's bullshit, dude, I got on a plane and flew to California cross country, no problem.
Exactly.
I mean, they're not stopping you. But I'm not going to say the situation's not fucked up. Like, if I wanted to go back to work, I can't, because I work at a restaurant that I don't own, and he decided, he's not going to test it. But it's crazy. And I even see Truther channels putting like hashtag quarantine, # lockdown stream. Dude, you're not in a quarantine. You know what it'd be like really in a quarantine, dude? You wouldn't be live streaming. Give me a break. And so all they're doing is pushing fear. I can't stand channels that push fear. That's or people that push fear, because they're just feeding into the beast system, because this whole system runs on fear. That's why you don't hear me going on, oh, chemtrails are going to kill us, or I'm so worried about they're going to stick a needle in me. I believe everything's going to be done by consent anyways. And honestly, and people get triggered by this, I never thought chemtrails would poison us. So there's that. I believe that's to put things into the air that impede our collective consciousness, our connection with each other, the creator, possibly celestial objects in the sky. So that's where I think it is. And that's an even deeper agenda. They want you to run in fear, because if the chemtrails were really to kill you, with people like Joe Rogan and Jesse Ventura been telling you that 10 years ago and telling you the truth, no, of course they wouldn't. Give me a break. Well, it's always fear. And the fear is, it's been fake every time. And I know there's people that'll say, Brian, you can't say all these things have been fake. since 9/11 forward, at least, and everything I've looked at, they've all been fake. And if I'm crazy, you tell me the specific one that isn't, and tell me why. We'll have the conversation. I'll be waiting for the call because it never comes. Oh, there's got to be one that's real.
It's either fake or a hoax. Some of them are actually staged and acted out, and sometimes they will do a real event or do a war game simulation and film it and then put it out on the propaganda machine as a real life event. But one thing that, I wanted to kind of touch on here is, we talked about, what happened with 9/11. They showed it over and over and over, and the world was looking at it, and it traumatized and brought out fear to go forward with an agenda that the solution that they wanted to do. Okay. And here we are today. And I know this probably shocked you as much as it did me, is to see how many people would compliant and be so complacent and just go and house arrest themselves and put these masks on. It was really shocking to me.
I've said this and people will disagree, but I think these people all took an update before this happened. And you know what I'm saying?
Well,
I think they all took an update because they're acting extra irrational, 180 of the way things would work. And we can talk about my first couple visits to the doctors and what happened. And when they first started emptying out the medical buildings and the way these people are acting, they're not all there. And I know, people take Mandela effect updates. And I'm telling you, everybody took an update. The whole world, including us. The truth is, took a creativity update. These people all got aggressive just before the holidays. How many videos did I do talking about that specifically? And how many people called in and said they got in fist fights? I Squeeze is here. I know he got in a fist fight. A few other people over that. And then the way that they act irrationally. Something happened. Now, if people don't want to believe in the Mandela effect, that's fine. Maybe it was a frequency weapon. Maybe it was whatever else you think could get into. Maybe you think there's a voice to God technology if you don't want to believe what I'm saying. But I'm telling you what I believe. And I believe there was a huge download, basically, that everybody took going into this a few months before it.
And what I was going to say is I was going to do a comparison on, we got the propaganda machine pumping out the information, the fear narrative, to get the people to, want or create or use their very God-given abilities. There's got to be maybe a small group that knows that if you get the people behind it, you can create whatever matter, the hierarchy, whatever it is, to take control. Okay, but you got to get the people to believe it and create it. So they try to, put out these type of things. But then when you walk around in your reality, like when I walk around, I don't deal with the mask issue. I see beautiful skies. The people I come into contact with are peaceful and loving. So I'm not walking in that narrative. And actually, my parents, who told me they wouldn't even open the door for me when this first happened, I was supposed to go down and visit for a couple of weeks. And she said, if you come down, I wouldn't even open the door. I said, what if I was out of food? She goes, I'll put food outside. Don't open the door. I said, I got a key. She goes, Don't open it. But now, Mother's Day, she comes up, no mask, hugs, kisses, and then got Mandela affected herself by seeing that the city where we lived never existed when we lived there. So it's just a matter of, are you going to allow that box to infiltrate, put you in fear where you're not critically thinking for yourself and making your own determinations? That's where your passion and your unveiling all of this and putting it out there. I can see your heart. I can see your heart for people, whether you call them normies or NPCs. Even with those, I don't even think you like labels at all. It's those people that you really want to reach and kind of wake up. There's more for you. This world has so much more to offer. See through this BS. I'm going to show you what I've got, but I want you to come up to your own conclusion and do your research. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I get. And with the different people you have coming on and stuff, sharing their experiences, it's a very diverse group. And so that means that you're not shutting anyone out. And if you're willing to debate somebody, that is actual debate. Nobody wants anyone to agree with you like 100%, like you said earlier, because then they're not thinking for themselves. They're just listening to you and parroting back what you're saying. But an actual debate where you're coming, and you've got your facts, they've got their facts, and you have an actual debate, a difference of opinion. No one's a winner, no one's a loser, but you have an actual conversation. Now, you do those kind of things. You have no problem with bringing someone on that, wants to challenge something you said, and they've got their facts. There's a manner to do that.
I purposely do that. I purposely bring people on that have on polarizing things, like people have totally different views on what I think is causing the Mandela effect, or different views on other things. I bring them on to hear what they have to say. If they're people I respect for all their other views. That's what I want people to do with me. If you think I'm spot on about this and that, why not look at the third thing? You know what I mean? I'm clearly not an idiot. And you can't dismiss anything as a psyop. And when you do that, you look like the people that did it to you a few years before, and whatever it is you're looking at. I mean,
and even the people that are being terrified to the point where they're not critically thinking and remembering that a virus is, bed rest and chicken noodle soup, and wearing masks, because they are so scared. They're not critically thinking for themselves. They're looking to that box for answers. They're looking outside of themselves. And I like that you're showing people how to properly conduct yourself without a mask, without encroaching your sovereignty onto somebody else's, and also at the same token, you don't want somebody else with their sovereignty encroaching over yours.
Well, now's the time to lead by example, and we can't expect these normies or whatever to do it if we don't do it ourselves and show them, So that's why I want to do it. Plus, when I do it, I've been able to talk to a lot of like the small business owners and stuff, and really try to see where their brain's at, try to get them out of fear on an individual level, just real quick, even if it's fucking 3 minutes every time I go see that scared Indian guy at the store up the street, which I need blunts. I'll probably go see him today. So, just to have a quick conversation with them. And when you talk to these people, you'll find out that a lot of them are actually more awake than you think, and they just don't have anybody to talk to. Like when I started to talk to them about, I don't start with, hey, I don't even get into the science of the virus with them. I talk to them about the overreach of the government. Don't you think you should be able to sit people in your restaurant? These types of conversations, and having those types of conversations, 3 of the different shop owners were like, oh, I know 9/11's an inside job. They're telling me this. I didn't get into my views on it. I just agreed with them and said, all right, so you don't think that they would lie about the virus? And have you seen the hospitals? Do you know anybody sick? That's where I usually go with it, even before the hospitals. Do you know anybody sick? Is anybody in your family sick? Are any of your friends sick? Everybody always says no, of course, It's always bad somewhere else.
I don't like to abuse my guests, and I know it's been over an hour, but I did want to ask you a little bit, if you could share a little bit about your interactions with the doctors that you've called and what they have told you. What are the precursors? What did you need to do? Or, what you found out from the ones that you actually spoke with?
You mean like at the start of this thing or recently?
Just anything that, without giving away your personal information or whatever, about what did they, when you went to the
oh yeah, I can tell you. I'll tell you. So the way you could tell the PSYOP was working is the first doctor I went to was like, it was probably, I'd say about 2 days after Mac Flat Earth Falca made the first video he did. He went to a few hospitals. So a few days later, I had a doctor's appointment. This is when they just started shutting things down. They wanted to cancel my appointment. I made the hugest stink about it, complained about so much pain. They ended up seeing me, okay? But there was nobody else there. They started clearing out these buildings. So I go in, and I'm talking to the guy. And he's like, yeah, I just sit here all day and do nothing. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, because I knew what he meant. I mean, I already know it's fake, So I'm like, what do they got? You just kind of waiting? He's like, yeah, we're waiting for the overflow. And because we're waiting, here's another gross thing they do too. Because we're waiting for the overflow, they don't want us using up all our personal protective equipment. The PPE is a term they like to throw around now. So we can't do elective surgeries, because I'm asking them, like, are you guys testing for corona here? Or are you going to see corona people? Why can't you do an elective surgery? So they're just sitting there waiting for the calm before the storm. He told me it makes no sense, right? Then he told me he's been in contact with the Center for Disease Control. We know it's centers. So my doctor's Mandela affected. His business card is the old American flag with the red stripe under the blue. This is the guy that's supposed to cut me open. All right, think about that. Okay. So I leave his office and I start to walk around the building. I got it all on film. Empty. And there's like 50 offices in there. It's a huge medical building, all these different doctors' offices. There's staff. There's no people. Staff but no people. So he's waiting for the overflow of people that like the hospitals can't handle or anything, right? You go outside and there's a posted sign. If you have this, this, and this symptom, go home, self-isolate, and call this number. So if they show up there, the people see the sign and go home. Meanwhile, he's inside waiting for them. So what they do is they have everybody thinking they're waiting for the calm before the storm. They all buy into it. What do they do all day? They're doing nothing, right? So what they actually do all day, besides make TikTok dance videos and play Candy Crush on their phone, is they watch the same news as everybody else, and they get their internal emails from whoever, and that scares the shit out of them. And then what they've so cleverly done is, well, why did they make this so stupid, the common flu? Because they can misdiagnose everybody. Anybody that's going to have the common flu is going to go in there. And then since now more places are getting the swab test, but at first almost nobody had it. So they would just tell them, we don't have the test. We can't test you. And they would just give you presumptive positive and diagnose you with it. Then I'll tell you what happened when I went to urgent care, because that's crazy. So then what happens is, let's say somebody, if you ask an EMT on the street how they are discerning between influenza and the COVID, they can't. They just assume it's COVID. Okay. So they get added to the stats, taken to the hospital, whatever happens from there. Right. And then if you go in and you don't have a test and you're a nurse or a doctor who's ever making the decision, and you've been watching the TV all day and you're in it, you think you're on the front lines, somebody comes in with the flu-like symptoms, what are you going to diagnose them as? COVID. So they're all buying into it psychologically. They're all psyoped by it. I went to the urgent care. Christian picked me up. We drove by an urgent care. He's like, yo, you want to go there? I'm like, let's go there. We'll film, right? So this is like, urgent care, right? So we pull up and you see these two girls they're in like these side windows, and they like get excited because they haven't seen any headlights in fucking days. That's probably why.
They're like, someone else is coming in to talk to us.
Yeah. So I go in and talk to the lady, and I'm like, well, I don't want to tell her I'm sick. I don't want them, not that I think people are going to grab me or anything. I'm not afraid, but I'm still not going to put my name on that type of list. Right. Mm-hmm. I said, I have a friend. What if blah, 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 blah. Should I bring them to the hospital? She says, no, absolutely not. I said, what? I shouldn't bring them to the hospital? Absolutely do not bring them to the hospital. I said, okay. So I bring them here. Yeah, you come here. And I said, well, then what happens? She said, well, then you give us your name and your phone number, and you go sit out in the car. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here, right? So you're going in, you're dying of corona. They want you to go, then go sit in the car. You wait for a call. And then after that call, they make a decision if they're going to diagnose you telemedicine or if they're going to actually give you a room. And that second option is never going to come to be. They're not giving you a room. They're not going to bring you onto the crime scene. They're going to give you telemedicine over the phone. And they have diagnosed people over the phone and told them that they have COVID-19. Like, give me a fucking break. Such a joke. And as we know, death certificates, they all sorts of debilitating conditions. And I actually had somebody send me a death certificate the other night. I showed it on the air. The person had, I forget the condition. I don't want to say the wrong one, but it was a debilitating condition for many years. And then underneath it, because it said that for cause of death, and underneath it, it said, oh, possible COVID, and it was listed up as a COVID death.
Yes. The one that, do you want to cue up a short song real quick so you can take a quick break? Because the one I wanted you to share with everybody is the one about your grandma, your Nana. Because that's a very interesting thing that was mentioned to you there. And, that was like shockwaves, for them to even say something like that to you about, a simple hug. I mean, I was like, are people really believing that this is a possibility? Or, I mean, are you okay to go on? Because I heard you coughing. I don't know if you need to run outside and take a couple puffs off the city or.
No. It wasn't my Nana. It was me talking to that lady at urgent care. So the conversation continued, and she told me that she's like, I haven't seen. At first, I'm like, has it been real crazy here? That's what I always say. Has it been real crazy? They're always like, no, it's not, it's not that crazy today, but next week it's going to be the peak.
Mhm.
This is what they say. It's calm before the storm. That's what they say. Then she's like, I'm like, I don't see anybody around. Are you by yourself? She's like, no, the rest of the staff is over there. Being the two girls that was shocked to see us pull up. That's the rest of the staff, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like,
because you actually have a video of this. You have a video. I don't know if you'll remember it.
Yeah, I got the whole thing recorded. And I'm like,
Yes.
well, how's your family, I always ask them, how's your family? She's like, oh, well, I haven't seen my mother in since this whole thing started. So I'm like, how old is she? She's like, oh, she's like 88 with and she's she's on her way out, basically, right? And she's not in a nursing home though, right? And I'm like, so how often did you used to see her? She was like, oh, like 2 or 3 times a week. So now she's not even going to see her, right? And then she's like, she's like, well, and tonight, and she's all proud. She's like, we're gonna have dinner on Zoom. Me and my whole family, there's 12 of us. We're gonna have dinner and wine on a Zoom chat. I said, so you're gonna have 12 different people in 12 different houses on a Zoom chat? And she said, yeah. And then I said, well, I asked her, well, I was supposed to go visit my Nana, so I shouldn't go visit my Nana now? Absolutely. To not go visit your Nana. I'm like, I heard people say that I could kill her. They're like, yes. If you go there, you could kill your Nana. It's like, wow, this lady is so brainwashed, dude. Insane.
My home phone's ringing, so I muted up. Voy thinks I'm being very suggestive. No, I'm just trying to. It's not. I'm not trying to be suggestive of where to take the interview. I'm just trying to make sure that we hit some of these broad strokes that you've actually conquered, and then and put out there in real life that you have allowed people to peer in from a vantage point that a lot of people, they're getting it from the box in their living room, but you're showing them in real life that it's empty, there's nothing going on, and that they're going on directives, playing Candy Crush or games, and they were happy to see another face come in, but at the same time, they're being fed things that are just inhumane. I mean, we live on hugs
and people have to understand about the people that are being chalked up as COVID when they're not. There are people that die every year, and old people die. Okay, but where are all the young people that are dying from this? Where's your cousins, your uncles, your nieces, your nephews that have died from this? It's only just people that are already dying. People are in nursing homes, and they're just being labeled COVID. So yeah, you might know somebody. They told me that my Nana's sister has COVID, but she's in a nursing home. She's been there. She's been dying. Anybody in a nursing home is doomed right now. And the people in the nursing home are all dying lonely. They're not allowing visitors, and that's what they all look forward to. They're dying miserable in there. And they're giving all sorts of people over here all sorts of extra money if you don't know how to go through with this, folks. They're giving people extra money on their unemployment. They're giving people, I talked to somebody yesterday, is getting an extra $8 an hour for God knows what, just because they're working right now in this on top of their regular pay. It's like,
Steffi's making me laugh. This is a serious interview, but she's like, did you see that? What I put up there that she said?
Yeah, I seen that. Actually,
plastic.
yeah.
I mean, is this a real thing? The nano protection?
They walk up and there's like this thing that stands up, and like you stick your hand in this plastic, and Nana comes from the other side, sticks her hand in the plastic, and you got like a plastic shield in front of you, and you can hug her. It's like so over the top, some of this stuff. It's just too much. Some days there's just so much disinformation with it. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. And I work at the restaurant. I'm not gonna ever go back there. It's done. It's just I'm gonna make it life changes because of this now. So I'm gonna use it for me.
Maybe with what you're doing, it's pretty much grown into a full-time thing with you, with your channel. You got a lot of activity going on several different channels. So have you thought that would be a better direction, a more fulfilling role for you rather than
Yeah, it's hard to get by like that. You know what I mean? Like YouTube demonetized me, so it's just like people want to put in the Patreon or whatever. You don't really like to ask people type of thing. So we'll see where it goes. Some people, I only set it up like a month ago, and some people puts a good amount in there. So hopefully it'll build it. At least so I can still collect the unemployment and this thing shut down. Hopefully that'll take it long enough to where that's built up enough, and then I don't have to go back. I certainly won't go back to a restaurant wear a mask. You know that. You know I'm not going to go back and socially distance from a customer, because how am I going to make any tips doing that? I'm not doing it, and
yeah.
I wouldn't conform to that. I'm not participating in that activity. I'll find another way. You know, I'll find another way. I'm smart. I'll figure it out.
So, do you think, in Brian Staveley's opinion, do you think that we have made a permanent change from what is going on, or do you have a feeling of wanting things to get back to human contact, sitting down in restaurants, and going back to what was we did just fine under that standard of living, and we've had flus forever. I mean, do you think we'll get back to that? I mean, where do you hope that?
I think they'll get. I think the guidelines in place for social distancing will go back. I think people will stop with the masks, and the sports stadiums will fill again. But here's the thing. The thing that won't ever go away from it is the fear that it left over everybody. So they've just put the fear up a whole nother step. And honestly, even though they're going to roll back the social distancing guidelines, a lot of people are going to have a hard time rolling it back. Like personally, they're going to be scared of you. People are going to stay away from you. It has changed a lot of things. I don't think they'll keep it to where like all the shop owners have red X's on the ground like they do now. I think that'll roll back, but there's still going to be what percentage of the population that are going to be scared forever now. They're going to be scared of other humans. So what if there's a virus going around and the news hasn't reported it yet? Anybody could have it, right? So it's there all the time.
Yeah. But then again, there's people like you, there's people like me, and I mean, pretty much everybody in the chat room that knows that there's nothing to be afraid of. So we will continue with our life as if this doesn't have that kind of effect. And with the work that you're doing, don't you think that with the work that you're doing, that you are removing blinders and pulling that fear away by showing the truth, by empty hospitals, and by walking around in stores and reaching over and grabbing toys and purchasing it, and just the things that you're doing, you're walking your everyday life as if none of this is going on. And so, and you're not bumping heads with people, you're just going about your business. You don't think that that's going to have an effect or an impact? Look how much you've done in such a short period of time. What I'm saying, you don't expect people to agree with you. You don't want them to. Actually, you want them to critically think and get the understanding and get their mind working. So don't you have a positive outlook on the direction that you're taking it, with the passion that you have for your channel and what you're showing people, that people will say, okay, what am I afraid of? It's an invisible boogeyman.
Yeah, that's what we're trying. That's what we're trying. That's what we're trying. Unfortunately,
we're definitely only worked for a little while, right?
Yeah. Well, that's definitely what I'm trying to do. But let's be realistic. We're not reaching enough people yet.
You will.
We're trying to get there. But we're not there yet. That's for sure. So. You
will. You've got the passion. You got the drive. And right now, maybe it was a blessing in disguise for you to have the time. People, often wonder, well, okay, this is what's going on. But you know what? Look what it did for you. You got to come out to California, experience a different state, walk it out here, and see how things are much different. Different areas, it's so much different. Depends on where you're located, how people are responding, and even going into the facilities and the things that you're doing. I just think that you're kind of selling yourself a little short here because of the newness of your channel and the momentum that you have taken. It's I'm not trying to puff your head up or anything. What I'm trying to say is the passion that you're putting out there, it's contagious. whether they're popping in and
So
trying to
that's
troll
what
whatever. It's contagious.
that's what I try to do too. Is I try to get everybody else to get comfortable, do their own live streams, take phone calls, have guests on, do interviews, and I think I've helped a lot of people do that. So that just helps everything grow and helps the whole truth movement grow. Some people don't want to hear me, but they'll want to hear Jen, or they'll want to hear Steve, or they'll want to hear other people, Karen, or they want to hear, whoever else in the community. They don't want to hear my voice. There's different people for everybody. So the more of us, the merrier.
Yeah, and you also bring on, interesting people that others would not have heard of. I mean, so you bring on some people that I've never heard of, and then I then go and check out their stuff. I don't know. I think it's more of a community. The more that we communicate as a community, the more people that you'll be introduced to, and the bigger and stronger that the self-empowerment, the courage, the truth. It's basically all boils down to the truth, and discernment, and not allowing fear to rule over your life. You can't critically think if you're terrified.
Nope.
And people like you and your guests and Karen putting out calm, peace, truth. It's going to move mountains. It's going to change things for people. I would like to see it go back to where people, I don't want us to go back to a hierarchy. I want the hierarchy part done away with, and equality, for people to see each other as the equal beings that they are. If you want to do something with your life, you should be able to achieve it. As long as what you're wanting to do doesn't encroach on somebody else's free will and their sovereignty, we should go for it. But as for a society, we should be hugging and we should be holding hands. And, when she said, don't hug your Nana, you could kill her. I dropped my jaw. I was like, and she's a medical professional telling you something like that? You knew more than she did, basically. I mean, you showed that.
I mean, they're all very brainwashed in the medical industry. I mean, come on. Most of them. I mean, there's some smart people, but most are just so far gone. I mean, they're just, and then the rituals that they do, and everybody's honking the horns and the sirens at 7, and people banging the pots and the pans. I mean, that's just disgusting.
Well,
then all the stuff they got geared at the kids. There's all these kids Corona songs now and Corona cartoons. I mean, I done a video on just the kids songs. Never mind
Corona dances. Remember the dances?
Yeah.
And they're not social distancing. The doctors and nurses that are doing these, and even the kids when they're doing these Corona dance movements and stuff. So, and I also peek in every once in a while at what the president is saying, just to get a feel for what's going on. And I look at what they're doing, not necessarily what's coming out of their mouth. He's not wearing a mask. They're not social distancing, so I look at what he's showing us as a population, not what he's being forced to say. You know what? Look for the signs and the symbols. And I'm going to give you some final words here, and we'll sew this up because I've kept you much longer. And we know we're going to continue on after for just a few minutes. So is there any advice or anything that you would like to say to the viewers? And guys, all the links and everything for his channel are in the description box below. I'll be adding one more. I think I missed one, so you can look for that later. But this is Brian Staveley, and this is his journey, his awakening. So let me hand it over to you.
I just want people to look into the things I say without dismissing them. If you are still here, you clearly don't think I'm an idiot, I would hope. And you'll find there's a lot of validity in these things. So, as far as the 9/11 stuff, I know that's very triggering for people, but just be honest. Have you ever thought to look into those avenues that I've been talking about? You don't have to agree. Just have you ever thought to look into that at all? And then take a look at everything else, all these other fear events, and especially this Corona thing, which is why I did a show linking this back to 9/11. But of course, I got hate speech for that too. You see all the same things: actors, empty hospitals, fake fear, invisible enemies, high-level propaganda ready to roll out as soon as it came out. Frontline soldiers are now nurses and doctors instead of cops and firemen. It's all the same drama. As far as the Mandela effect, Don't just find one you don't agree with and then dismiss the whole thing. Very easy to do, even if you disagree with a huge one, like some people do. I don't agree with the Darth Vader one that everybody agrees with, but I still know it's real because I'm affected by thousands of other ones. It's not how it works. It's not that it's an effect, and not people see them at different times. Different people see different ones. We're trying to figure it out. We don't know what's happening. And don't pigeonhole Mandela effect people into a certain theory, just like I wouldn't pigeonhole people into a certain map or anything like that. When people say, oh, you believe the Mandela effect, you think it's this or you think it's that. Actually, usually the answers they spit out are far from what I think. Those are usually answers science wants you to believe. Mainstream wants you to believe. Things to discredit spirituality because everything they do is to hide a spiritual side. So they want to tell you it's a computer or a simulation or CERN or these things. I don't believe it's any of that. But those are just my theories. All those theories are always welcome on my channel, but I just don't believe any of that. And don't fall for the same people that make hit pieces on these other topics like Vice and Vox. That's who makes hit pieces on the Mandela effect. Those are the idiots that put out articles like, oh, it's the Plantis Peanut guy. You're mixing up the Monopoly man. These are the types of people we're going to believe when you're trying to look into a serious topic. I mean, come on, get past the surface. Have the conversation with me, guys. Your scriptures are changing. Your body's changing. I'll save the anatomy for another show. I'll save more geography for another show. And I got a shitload of more history upstairs. Maybe I'll go live tonight and talk more about it. But and then with the Corona thing, I just, you gotta lead by example. You gotta have courage. And I see even a lot of truth is saying, oh, well, it's mandatory in Mass. I'm like, I live in Mass. I had one tell me, oh, I went to Lowe's and I had to wear the mask. So I said to him, Lowe's is a hardware store here. I don't know if you have Lowe's there. But I said to him, well, because those are essential, Small business isn't, but the hardware store is. So I says to him, well, what did they say to you when you said, I have a medical condition? I already knew his answer was going to be that he didn't even bother to say that. And he was just like, oh, well, I don't want to get fined $3,000. I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? And then my personal friend called me on the phone after my show yesterday, and he went to Lowe's with no mask, told me a whole story about it. And we're actually probably going to go there tomorrow morning and do some filming and maybe try and talk to some people outside of Lowe's because they all line up 6 feet apart, all wearing the mask. And they even, I think he might have said there was somebody at the door, but I'm not sure. But we're getting in either way.
All right. Okay. And let's see here. And that is Brian Staveley. Like I said, all of his links are down below. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you're interested in sharing what you know so others can listen and grow, contact me by email. I have some guests already lined up for the next few weeks. I like to only do one a week. So look forward to seeing Voynich is going to be coming on. Hebrew is going to be coming on. There's a few others, but I love to hear other people, where you're at, what you have to share, because I don't always resonate with people, but maybe somebody that comes on will resonate with you and then help you with your growth process, because all we can do is plant seeds. And, I want to thank Brian for coming on, and remember all of his, if you're not subscribed to him already, they're down in the description box, down in the show more notes. So I recommend that you subscribe to him. Thank you.